An increasing body of scholarly literature is identifying and describing these processes across spiritually grounded social ventures, including in Hizmet. Harvard's Robert Putnam's conception of the way religious communities create social capital is only one notable recent foray, but perhaps the best example of the work of social enterprise within Hizmet and its contribution toward peace building is the work of the Hizmet schools around the globe. More about them shortly, I trust. And by turning here, we can happily then clarify the third aspect of how Hizmet contributes to strengthening the better angels of our nature. I visited schools associated with the Hizmet movement on every continent except South America, including some of the poorest places on earth, Uganda, and Kenya, Albania, Australia, Singapore, Jakarta. I've been impressed by the quality and quantity of the efforts to develop sustainable and participatory institutions that promote literacy in the sciences and humanities. I've often compared these efforts to the far better known attempts by Greg Mortensen in his New York Times bestseller, 3 Cups of Tea, and have tried to point out that these schools flourished despite the lack of publicity associated with the large publishing contract on the one hand, and without the apparent administrative incompetence that has eroded Mortensen's reputation in recent years on the other. Other scholars, such as Harun Akiol, Greg Barton, Philip Bruckmeyer, Mehmet Kalyonjutsu, Martha Ann Kirk, Jonathan Lacey, and Mohammed Nawab bin Mohammed Osman, to name only a few, are analyzing in discrete case studies the contours of these social enterprises and their effectiveness in promoting more just, peaceful societies. As Gulen puts it, quote, "Now that we live in a global village, education is the best way to serve humanity and to establish a dialogue with other civilizations." Finally, the commitment of Hizmet members to interreligious dialogue is evident in the building of agencies such as the Peace Islands Institute, one of our sponsors for today's event, the Gulen Institute in Houston, the Dialogue Forum in Philadelphia, and similar centers around the globe. It is easy to forget that interreligious understanding and cooperation is, in contrast to the advances in other scientific disciplines, a relatively recent phenomenon. There are, of course, exceptions historically among some particularly generous missionary types. We've only had the capacity to read widely in each other's most profound spiritual texts and translations for the past century or so. And the critical study of religions in the academy is an even more recent phenomenon, dating here in the US basically to the 1960s. Interreligious agencies on behalf of peace and justice date at best from the founding of the Fellowship of Reconciliation in 1914. But it produced, again, notable successes on the global stage. The Tolstoy-inspired nonviolent revolution of Gandhi. The Gandhian-inspired civil rights movement that was organized in church basements across the United States. The interreligious Kairos theologians and their anti-apartheid activism in South Africa. The Catholic Solidarność, Solidarity movement in Poland. And most recently, the Muslim Christian Women's Movement for Peace in Liberia, to name only a few. Gulen is no expert in the history of religions, but he does assert clearly, quote, "No divine religion has ever been based on conflict, whether it be the religions represented by Moses and Jesus, or the religion represented by Muhammad, upon them be peace. On the contrary, these religions, especially Islam, are strictly against disorder, treachery, conflict, and oppression," end quote. To recognize the foundational mutual accountability of Jews, Christians, and Muslims to peace is, of course, only a necessary first step toward the difficult work of negotiating the terms of any such peace. As the theologian Hans Küng has famously put it, no peace among the nations without peace among the religions. No peace among the religions without dialogue between the religions. No dialogue between the religions without investigation of the foundation of the religions, end quote. I am happy to be a part of this investigation and this dialogue, both among the microcosm here at Seton Hall and the larger Hizmet movement and other religious peace builders around the globe. It's my decided conviction that through such investigation, through dialogue, and through our efforts to hold each other accountable to standards of truth, goodness, and beauty, to contribute to a more just and peaceful world. Becoming religious peace.